Hi, my name is Estefania Gonzalez, and this is my storytelling performance number 1 for my storytelling class by Professor Ren Estes. Now, the story that I will tell you about today is called The 12 Dancing Princesses. Now, this is a retelling by Brigette Barrager, and the focus age group is from ages 3 to 8, and this is how the story goes. Once upon a time, in a kingdom far, far away, there lived 12 princesses, and they were so beautiful they were named after flowers. One of them was named Rose, another Violet, there was Bluebell, there was Lily, and one of them was even named Poppy. Now all of these 12 princesses, they lived a charmed and beautiful life. But unfortunately, they had a mysterious problem. Each and every morning without fail, they would find that their shoes were worn and even had holes in them. And on top of that, they would go to the palace garden all throughout the day and just went and slept and napped and lounged around like cats. Now, the king even had to hire his own personal shoemaker to make shoes for all of these princesses. Now he worked all day and all night to keep making all of these shoes because they kept getting worn out so often. Now, this shoemaker's name is Pip, and Pip really liked Princess Poppy the best because she always told him how beautiful the shoes were. Pip, these shoes are so lovely. And then she would go back to sleep. Now, Princess Poppy really liked Pip, but she was never awake long enough to tell him so. Now the king was very, very concerned about this mysterious problem with his daughters. So he thought to himself one day, what am I going to do? All of these princesses, they keep being tired all the day long. How are they supposed to rule when I am gone if they keep napping all day? And so he decided to make a proclamation. If anybody figures out and solves the mystery of my princesses and their worn out shoes and why they keep sleeping, they would go ahead and get the biggest and most great treasure, no matter how big or how great it is. They will get their heart's desire. Soon enough, tons of scientists, detectives, doctors, fortune tellers, anybody, they all wanted to come to the palace and figure out and provide their expertise to see if they could solve the mysterious problem. So they went ahead and they studied the princesses while they slept or tried to sleep. They researched, they searched, they prodded, they studied. They did everything and anything that they could to try and figure out what was wrong. And of course, all of this research just made the princesses more tired. But after a while, they decided to just go to the king and just try to explain this mysterious problem, but nobody could. So the king said, the brightest and the most intelligent men in all of the land can't figure this out. Then who will help us? So the king sighed, and there was a great sorrow in the court. But of course, there was one man who never gave up, and he was Pip. Now Pip decided that he really wanted to figure out this problem, so that same night he decided to create the most quietest and most silent shoes ever. Later on, in that same night, when the castle was all dark and still, he snuck into the princess's room. He went up to the door, put his ear right up against it, and waited. Soon enough, he heard a rustling and riffling around and swooshing sounds. So he decided to investigate. So he opened and peeped into the room and saw that all of the princesses were dressed in their finest gowns and were wearing the most beautiful jewels. It was like they were going to a grand ball. And Pip thought to himself, but what's happening? Wait. And then he noticed that all of their eyes were still closed. They were sleepwalking. So, all of a sudden, as he was watching them running around with their finest gowns, he noticed that a big giant trapdoor opened right in the middle of the room with very, very steep stairs. Now, the shoemaker looked and saw that each one of them, one by one, started going down into the stairs. He quickly and silently followed them right down. Now, as soon as he arrived at the bottom of the stairs, he noticed that there was a beautiful cavern. It was filled with wonderful trees made of gold, silver, and diamonds. And there were beautiful birds and their lullabies in the magical place. Pip thought to himself, wow, this is really a magical place, but nobody's gonna believe me. I need to get some proof. So he took little parts of the trees to take back as evidence. Now, as the princes go along the path, he notices that they stop right in front of a dark and very dreamy and beautiful lake. As they approach the shore, he notices that there's tons of little boats all up right there. So the princesses silently start getting on the boat and head over to the island. Pip quickly has to hurry, and he gets on the last boat and heads over there as well. Once they arrive, he notices that this beautiful island that they traveled to has this beautiful and magical dancing hall filled with shimmering lights, and there's wonderful music so lively in the background. And so all of the princesses start to dance, and they dance around and twirl around just like ballerinas. And Pip finally notices why all of their shoes are so worn. It's because they keep dancing every single night. Now they keep doing this for hours and hours and hours, all the way until the morning. And then all of a sudden the music starts to fade, and the princesses silently head out of the hall and onto the boats to get across the lake as silently as they came. And Pip is slowly following them. But as they're heading towards the stairs, he decides, this has got to stop. And so he had read enough stories to figure out that a kiss is the best antidote to any type of spell. But Pip was too much of a gentleman. So what he did was he grabbed Poppy's delicate hand and he kissed it. Poppy's eyes fluttered open, and so did all of her sisters. And as she did so, the pathway and the stairs and everything else started disappearing into vapor and dust as they hurried up the stairs back into the room. They all went through the trapdoor, and then all of a sudden, trapdoor slammed shut, and there was a puff of smoke. Now, as you can imagine, all of the 12 princesses were bewildered. They didn't know what had happened. What happened? What am I wearing? They kept saying. And Pip came and said, well, you were all under a magic spell, and I had to break it. Poppy intercedes and says, yes, you did, and you broke it with a kiss. They were all very happy after that, but they remembered that they needed to tell the king what had happened. So they all quickly went into the throne room to talk to the king. Pip explained everything that had happened, including the cavern and the dancing in the hall. And the king still didn't believe Pip. It seemed like a crazy story. So he told Pip that he needed some proof. So Pip grabbed the little twigs that he had made of gold, silver, and diamonds and showed it to the king. The king saw and he believed him. I knew there was still magic surrounded in this castle. So he told Pip, even the bravest and the brightest of all of my kingdom couldn't figure out what happened, and you solved the mystery, and you have saved all of my princesses. What would you like? What is it that your heart desires? Do you want bags of gold? Do you want a chest full of diamonds? Do you want a castle of your own? What is it that your heart truly desires? And Pip came, and he nervously asked the king, well, I would like Poppy's hand in marriage. Poppy heard and she said, yes, yes, of course. They were all so happy. And so the king and the kingdom all rejoiced in this beautiful wedding that was going to happen between Pip the shoemaker and Poppy the princess. And of course, by now, all of the princesses were dancing throughout the day because they no longer felt sleepy. They never went back to the cavern, and everybody lived happily ever after. The end.